Do you know what the average monthly cost of a nursing home in the United States is? Would you be shocked if I told you that it's currently between $8,000 and $9,000? What if I told you that in-home care is currently costing Americans on average $5,000 a month? If you find these numbers staggering, you are not alone. Which leads us to a very big question. How are we paying for long-term care? Hi, I'm Carla Levinson. I'm a mom, a daughter, and a granddaughter, but I spend most of my day working as an elder law attorney. Welcome to my channel where I share tips for people who are caring for their aging parents. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about 3 main ways to pay for long-term care, plus 2 secret ways that you may have not even thought about. So if you're worried about this for your parents, keep watching. So as I said, there are 3 main ways to pay for long-term care in the US. We can pay for it out of pocket, we can pay for it with long-term care insurance, or we can pay for it by applying for Medicaid. I'm going to talk about all 3. Way number 1, paying for it out of pocket. Paying for it out of pocket is exactly what it sounds like. Anyone can use their savings to pay for long-term care. If you're facing a long-term care situation for your parents, a big thing to think about is knowing where your parents' money is. Once you figure out where your parents' money is, you can also calculate how long that money would last, given your parents' current care situation or what their potential future care situation may be. If you have done that, spoiler alert, because long-term care is so expensive, even if your parents have saved well, their money won't last very long because long-term care is so expensive. So let's talk about way number 2. We can pay for long-term care with long-term care insurance. Can you guess how many people over the age of 65 actually have long-term care insurance? Would you be surprised if I told you that it's only about 12% of people? Would you also be surprised if I told you that people over the age of 65, there's a 70% chance that they're going to need long-term care? So if you think about it, there's a huge gap between people who have long-term care insurance and people who will need long-term care. There are all different kinds of reasons for why this is. Long-term care insurance is very expensive. People are concerned because premiums can rise at any time. And a lot of times, people aren't motivated to try to get long-term care insurance until they're too sick to qualify. So there's other reasons why not a lot of people have long-term care insurance, but those are some of the major reasons. If you do want to learn more about features of long-term care insurance and different things to think about if you want to purchase a policy, check out my other YouTube video on the secrets of long-term care revealed. I will say one more thing about long-term care insurance today. If you can get long-term care insurance, if you can afford it, and if you're healthy enough to qualify, it can provide a lot of flexibility. In fact, flexibility is one of the major advantages of having long-term care insurance. So even though there are a lot of ways that elder law attorneys can protect assets from long-term care costs, those strategies that we use can sometimes limit where you're receiving care and what type of care you're receiving. Long-term care insurance gives you the flexibility to choose where you use your dollars, whether you want to stay at home and receive in-home care, whether you might want to move to an assisted living where they don't accept Medicaid, or any other care setting. So long-term care insurance, unfortunately, might not be a realistic option for you if it's too expensive or if you're not healthy enough to get it. But if you can get it, it offers a lot of flexibility. Now let's talk about way number 3. The majority of long-term care in this country is not paid for out of pocket or through long-term care insurance. Across the country, Medicaid is the primary payer source of long-term care. In order for long-term care Medicaid to cover your care, you do have to be below certain income and asset limits. A lot of people mistakenly believe that Medicaid is just for poor people, but as you can see, with the high costs of care being what they are, middle-class people end up needing to apply for Medicaid as well. The reality is that because long-term care costs are so high, middle-class Americans end up having to use Medicaid to cover their long-term care costs as well. There are other steps to take to protect assets from long-term care costs, but that's another topic for another day. If you do want to learn more about protecting assets from Medicaid accountability, I have a few other videos on my channel that go into more detail about strategies that we use to protect those assets. Check them out. Before I talk about the 2 secret ways that Americans are paying for long-term care, I want to highlight one major way that does not provide long-term care coverage. That is Medicare. Unfortunately, Medicare and Medicaid sound very similar, so it creates a lot of confusion between the 2 programs. Both Medicaid and Medicare are government benefits, but they provide very, very different things. Medicare does not pay for long-term care. Medicare is health insurance provided for adults over the age of 65. The only nursing care that Medicare will cover is for a skilled need if you meet certain eligibility requirements, and then only for up to 100 days. I have another video that talks in detail about the difference between Medicaid and Medicare. You can check that out on my channel. But for now, just remember that you can't rely on Medicare for long-term care. So to recap, there are 3 major ways that we pay for long-term care in this country. 1, out of pocket. 2, with long-term care insurance, and 3, with Medicaid. We also talked about a major way that we can't pay for long-term care in this country, and that is Medicare. I promised at the beginning of this video that I would also talk about 2 secret or less talked about ways that we pay for long-term care in the US. The first is through veterans benefits. There are all different types of veterans benefits, which is why it can be confusing. But today I'm talking about one specific VA benefit. That is known as VA pension. Sometimes people call it VA pension with aid and attendance or a VA survivor's pension. If you're a wartime veteran or the surviving spouse of a wartime veteran, you may be eligible for up to $2,700 a month if you're a married veteran, $2,300 a month if you're a single veteran, and about $1,800 a month if you're the surviving spouse of a wartime veteran. These are dollars that are paid to you from the VA. There are service requirements and income and net worth limits, but it's definitely worth looking into this benefit to see if you might qualify, because it can provide you with significant dollars to cover long-term care costs. And finally, there is one silent way that long-term care is being covered in the US. Do you have any idea what that might be? Would you be surprised if I told you that 2/3 of the individuals receiving long-term care in the US are receiving that care from a wife or a daughter who is not being compensated in any way for their caregiving? In fact, it's estimated that these uncompensated caregivers are providing, on average, $168,000 worth of uncompensated care on average. So this is one of the main ways that care is being provided in our country, but no one ever talks about it. I bring it up because this is definitely something that you want to think about as your parents age. So there you have it. I hope you learned something today about the major ways to pay for long-term care in this country. If you'd like to learn more about some of the other topics that I touched on, or if you'd like to learn more about all things elder law, check out my other videos on my channel.